Hey guys, it's Shah here, the Tech Borg, and today's video we're going to be doing LCM of two numbers. Now this is probably going to be quite a lengthy program because unlike greatest common factor, there's no built-in maths function that will let us find the LCM. So what we're going to have to do is, well, think about what LCM is first of all. So LCM is, let's think of two numbers like 5 and 20. Now LCM is lowest common multiple, right? So a number that 5 can times by to make that LCM number, and 20 times a certain number makes that LCM number. So the LCM is divisible by both 5 and 20, but it's the lowest multiple. So for example, 20 times 5 is 100. So 100 is divisible by both 5 and 20, but it's not the lowest common multiple. The lowest common multiple of this set is 20. So LCM of these two numbers is 20. Now, to begin making this program, first of all, we have to obviously take an input from the user. So x equals integer, and then input, and then number 1, y equals integer, input number 2. Okay, so now we first need to determine which of the two numbers are going to be greater, because the greater number will be the one that we need to satisfy first. Because if the greater number is divisible, if the greater number times to make that number, then so will the smaller. You get what I'm saying as I write the program and I explain it to you in a better way slightly. So now, if x is greater than y, a greater number equals x. And then we just have a quick else. Greater number equals y. Okay, so what we've done here is we told the system to determine which of the numbers are greater. So if x is greater than y, then the greater number, our new variable, will be x, or else if y is greater than x, then the greater number will be y. So now we're going to use a while loop. So the while loop will be useful because we're going to be looping through the LCM, every possible LCM. So while, and then because we want the loop to go on forever, I just use true, and then we can use break to get out of the while loop. Yeah. So while, now if, so what we're going inside a while loop, we're going to use a nested if loop. Now the if loop will let us determine whether both x and y are divisible by a certain number, right? And they should be divisible by the greater number. So the greater number represents the minimum starting point of the LCM, right? Because for example, look, the LCM of two numbers 5 and 20 is 20. 20 is the minimum starting point. Therefore, for any two numbers x and y, whichever one is greater, that has to represent the starting point of the LCM. So that's what we're going to do. So if greater number percentage equals 0, I think. Yeah, so greater number percentage, and then over here we need to have x, because what we're saying, greater number divided by whatever x values should give us 0, and greater number percent y equals 0. So this is quite simple. It's simple, but it's a really cool way of producing an LCM of two numbers compared to the normal mathematical method, which would be by using a factor tree maybe. So this is quite an elegant solution. So now we just need to obviously output LCM. So LCM is in this case your greater number, because, well, the greater number, if it's divisible by both x and y, and because greater number is the minimum starting point, well, surely it has to be your your LCM. So if we print greater number, and that is the solution. Now print, and then your LCM is, and then that. Okay, so that's one bit of the program done, and now we just break this while loop. So now we need to have an else in there, of course. So if, let's say this case doesn't happen, if this doesn't divide x, or this doesn't divide it, then we want it to go to the else and actually increase the value of greater number by 1. What this does is it will loop through every possible value using one of these as a minimum starting point. So let's say x was 5 and y was 20. Y is greater than x, therefore it will use this else statement. So now your greater number will be equal to 20. Now the system will enter the while loop and go for, okay, our greater number, which is the minimum starting point, is 20. Now 20 divides 5. So, 5 divides 20, therefore the remainder is 0. Therefore, and it does for y as well, because 20 divided 20 is 1, and 20 divided 5 is 4. So the LCM indeed has to be 20, because that's the minimum starting point. So, yeah. So greater number plus 1, and that should do the trick. If there's any errors, again, we can go over it. So 5 and 20. Okay, your LCM is 20. Brilliant. It's working. So it's, as you can see, it's a fairly lengthy program. I wouldn't say it's lengthy. It's just it's hard to understand, because when I first thought of it, it was like, okay, it doesn't seem right. So initially, I didn't use a while loop. It was more like breaking up into factors. I tried to use a more mathematical approach, but I saw this on Stacked Overflow, and it was a pretty good method. So I thought I will show you how to do this and explain it to you as well. So the other method I was using was finding the factors of the two numbers, and if you remember, in the actual maths method, you'd cancel out the factors that are the same in both, one set of them, and then you times the rest through, and that will give you the LCM. So I tried to use that method, but that method is actually complicated. So this is a really good crisp method, so I can explain to you one more time if you want. So first, we let the user enter the numbers, of course. Now, we know that LCM is the lowest common multiple, the minimum value, right? The minimum value surely has to be the greatest number at the very least. For example, 5 and 20, the greatest number at the very least is 20. Sorry, the minimum value is 20. So, for example, let's go for a different example. For 5 and 20, I've used 5 and 20 too much. Let's go for 8 and 16. Okay, so the lowest common multiple of 8 and 16 is 16, right? Because, well, 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 times 1 is 16, and you can't go below that. And do you see how I picked the greater number to be at my lowest common multiple? The lowest common multiple has to be starting with the greatest number out of the x and y's, which is what we've done here. So if x is greater than y, well, our greater number will be x, or else our greater number will be y. Done. And now, a while true, what this does is it will just continuously loop unless we put a breakpoint in there, which is what we've done here. So this is quite different to your standard while loop, where I normally have like while x is equal to 0, and then I have something here that increases the value of x by 1, and then that breaks the loop. Or over here you can just do while true, so just literally true, and then you just have a break there. So this is actually way easier. So if our greater number is divisible by our x value and divisible by a y value, well then of course our LCM is our greater number, right? And if not, greater number will increase by 1 each time, and every time it will loop through this if statement, checking to make sure that is divisible by both x and y. And that's really it, guys. So that, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. So this is LCM of two numbers, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, guys, like, comment, subscribe.